Hello, everyone. Wednesday, November 17th. Just want to make sure our sound is good here. Last week we had a little bit of a hiccup, but I can't blame anyone because I don't know how to fix it. So I just hope Kevin, our videographer, has it all set up this week. So Kevin's going to let me know if we're good to roll, and then we'll get into today's subject, which is going to be fun. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, one of my idols. Absolutely love his mindset and love how he looks at debt, how he looks at the world, how he looks at money, how he looks at financial literacy. I align with him. I align very, very strongly with how he looks at the whole world of finances. Good? Kevin gave me the thumbs up, so obviously you can hear me. Perfect. Yes, so today is going to be Robert Kiyosaki. We're mostly going to touch on Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the principles, the rules, my opinion on it, and this is going to be a complete contrast of last week, which was Dave Ramsey. So if you haven't watched that one, or if you're watching this one and you'd love to see the contrast and see kind of what I think of Dave Ramsey, again, I do agree with some of the things, just not all of it. But yeah, so let's dive in and go over number one. We're going to go over 8 points today, and this is the first one. And this is, and I love this in the book, and this is his words, the rich don't work for money. And what he means by this, and we'll actually talk about jobs down the road, and I'm not saying that jobs are bad. However, he's saying that the rich do not work for money. And I agree with this, Dave Ramsey. I think there's a place and time for that. I think everyone needs to get a job initially, learn some life lessons, get your feet wet, and build a foundation under you. And so did Robert Kiyosaki. I think he was in was it the Army or the Navy? He worked at Xerox. He had a bunch of different jobs. And then finally, that's when he decided that he wanted his assets, to work for him. And I strongly agree with him. For example, I'm just thinking Mel and I, we had full-time careers. I had 2 full-time careers, actually 2 of the same careers, and then 3 different employers. But it all brought me to where I am now, which is that I buy assets. So I don't necessarily trade my time anymore for money. I let my assets, and we choose income properties, right, buildings, and I let those assets work for me and make us money even while we sleep. So I strongly agree with him when he says the rich don't work for money. It's buying assets. The right assets, obviously, right? You can't just go out and buy a house and hopefully it cash flows, but buying assets, letting that work for you, making money while you sleep, leveraging those assets as opposed to being a slave to your liabilities. So I do agree strongly with him on that one. Number 2. Oh my gosh. I was listening to something this morning. It was Elon Musk, actually, and I don't want to sidetrack on different influencers. But he was just saying, and number 2 is financial literacy. He was just basically saying that, the school system and how he doesn't like how it's set up. And I was thinking of our live here, and it got me thinking of just how Robert Kiyosaki teaches financial literacy and the way he does it. He does it through games. He does it through books. He makes it fun. He makes it interesting. The cash flow, what's it called? The cash flow game. I forget what it's called exactly. I think it's something like that. We've played many times. We've played with our kids, explaining them. And it was funny because they got like the vehicle card or the boat. I think he calls it doodads. And at first they're like, yes, I got a boat. And as we keep going around, or a vehicle, I forget. And as they start seeing that money is coming out of their pocket as a liability, and I think I was buying in the game stocks, which was putting money in my pockets. And I'm not saying I'm a stock guy, but it was just, again, teaching the concept. And as we started going around turn after turn, they started to understand assets versus liability, right? Which is pretty cool because they're 16, 13. Even my 6-year-old, financial literacy, I'll ask him questions. I'll say, buildings, the buildings mom and dad have. He'll go, that puts money in our pocket. And I say, okay, what about my truck? Oh, that takes money out of my pocket. Yes. So just getting to learn that financial literacy. And this is something that I find people don't have. And this is how they get themselves stuck in that rat race, right? They don't have that financial literacy. They get a career, they get a job, they finally start making some money. And then instead of looking at it from, I shouldn't say like a quarterback, but instead of looking at it with a very kind of wide lens and seeing, okay, what are all my options? What should I be doing? Rainy day fund, like what's his name? Dave Ramsey, like I did last week. they just kind of look at, I want to buy the toys, I want to buy the liabilities now. And they just kind of get that tunnel vision. It's like a racehorse. They have those, excuse me, those blinders on them, and they just don't have that financial literacy to say that if you end up buying this now, you're going to be stuck, and then you're basically going to be going to your job every day to pay the bank for your mortgage, to pay the bank for their vehicle, to pay for other people. So you're basically, that's what they call the rat race, right? Because they don't have that financial literacy. I 100% agree with him. I really, really wish they would teach this in school. I wish they taught it to me in school. School was not my thing. I was bored out of my mind other than gym class, right? That was fun. Gym class and actually accounting class, because I liked seeing how the numbers worked. I didn't quite get it because it's not I'm not an accountant, but I really do wish they taught financial literacy. So I 100% agree with them. So important. If you have not bought his game, Kevin, can you look up exactly what it's called? It's the cash flow board game. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's just called something like that, but a Rich Dad cash flow game, or anyway, look it up. It's fun. You'll enjoy it. And if you're competitive like I am, you'll try and beat your kids at it. So, and they might be better than you at it. So who knows? Number 3, he says, mind your own business. And I agree with this wholeheartedly. And Mel and I did this as well. And basically, he's saying mind your own business. So even if you have a job, you're an employee, you have a career, you should always be trying to have your own business on the side. And this is something I strongly agree with and I support. Mel and I, well, let's talk about me. When I was at the fire department, we had our side gig, which was rentals and property management and all that. Mel worked at the local college as a course program developer, something like that. And again, we still had our side business, which eventually became our main thing. 101 Rich Dad Cash Flow Board Game. Thank you, Kevin. That's the name, so pretty bang on. But yeah, minding your own business. So even if you do have a job, even if you do have a career, you should be looking at, and this is up to you if you're an entrepreneur or not, but having some sort of side business or some sort of side hustle to make extra money and start building your business so that one day, again, like rule number 1, the rich don't work for money, right? And that's something that hopefully you could end up transitioning to. Number 4, and before we jump into number 4, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell to get notified, hit the like button, and Mel and I go live every week, or I go live every week. Sometimes Mel joins, sometimes we don't. We divide and conquer. But yeah, we release a video and we go live every Wednesday at noon Eastern time. Number 4, corporations. And this is something, if you have not followed Mel and I, this is something that we did not do correct from the beginning. At one point, we had about 18 properties, about 70, 80 units in our own name, and we weren't using the power of corporations. I'm not saying everyone needs to incorporate and purchase assets in a corporation. I'm not doing a whole carte blanche. You're going to have to speak to accountants, lawyers, which, full disclosure, my lawyer loves when I say this, full disclosure, I am neither. But corporations have a purpose. And I would not own any assets, any income properties not in a corporation or an entity or an LLC, depending which country that you're in. Now, I'm gonna tell a little story about Costa Rica and Mexico after. But the corporation, why is it important? Well, think about this. Corporations is like an avatar, and he's strong on corporations. He's all about after-tax dollars or before-tax dollars, and I fully agree with him. However, you don't know what you don't know, and I kind of went the wrong way initially until I knew how to structure myself. But again, corporations, liability-wise, it's an avatar, right? A corporation is a piece of paper in your lawyer's office or your attorney's office that they give you a copy of. It's nothing. It's a shell, right? It's an avatar of you, but it's still not you. It's that protection, which I absolutely love. Liability purposes, absolutely love corporations. All our stuff is in corporations. Tax purposes, what is nice about corporations is, okay, think about this. If you're an employee, and he says this in the book, so I don't want to copycat him, but I'll kind of do my version of it. If you're an employee, and I'm an employer, so I hire people and I see how payroll happens. So let's say before they get their actual money in the bank account, we have to take a portion off for the government. So right off the hop, we take the government's portion. No ifs, ands, or buts, right? The government takes it. They don't trust anyone. They want their money first. It's the government. And then after that, as an employee, and I've been there, done that, right? Then you get your paycheck. And then you go out and spend what's left, okay? And then you pay taxes after that as well, at the stores and everything like that. The thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, Mel and I have been employees. I'm still an employee of one of my corporations. So, but what I'm getting at is corporations is the opposite. And this is where you level up. And this is where, again, the things are structured in a way where if you understand how they work, you can leapfrog. What I mean by this, a corporation receives money, okay? And then it gets to spend it. The government doesn't get their portion first, like with a T4 in Canada or with a W2 in the States. The government doesn't get their money yet. With a corporation, you receive the money, or corporation, sorry. The corporation receives the money, it's the avatar. Then they pay all the bills, they buy what they need to buy for the business, and then whatever is left over, that's what gets taxed. See the difference there? Instead of the government taking their money first and then you having what's left over, the corporations get to buy, purchase, spend, whatever they, and again, there's certain, within limits, right? Again, they has to make sure that it's within CRA, Canada Revenue, and IRS rules. I'm not saying you just spend on anything, but if you do it strategically and with the help of accountants and CPAs, then it's what's left that's going to get taxed. And if you do it right, it's going to be very, very little to zero using depreciation and other types of things. So that with the corporation, there's very little left over. So then you don't have to pay taxes. This is a game changer with the corporations, right? This is night and day, and this is what allowed us to level up as well. So he's big on corporations. I 100% agree. Could not agree more. And once we started doing things, once we started purchasing assets in entities other than our own names, game changer. Now, story time. You have to listen to both the accountant and the lawyer. The accountant's going to want one thing and the lawyer's going to want one thing, and you need to mix that up, right? For example, I was talking to my international accountants about our acquisitions in Mexico and our acquisitions in Costa Rica, and they wanted a specific way for tax purposes. And then I was like, okay, well, I've spoken to enough lawyers and attorneys to know that that structure itself will not be beneficial liability-wise. So had to interject, and get the lawyers involved as well. So just because you're talking to a pro, know that there's also another side to that coin, and both of them should be talking as well to best structure you. Number 5, invent money. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love this. And Kevin's giving me the wave here. We do have a webinar tomorrow. It's completely free. Mel and I go live tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We show you, I think, 4 examples on deals. We go into our backstory, all that stuff. We go over creative financing, and the link to that, and I don't know if Kevin, you can write it in the chat, www.iloveopm.com. There you go. Happy Kevin, I made sure to mention it. But yes, inventing money. I absolutely love this. And you might think, well, Dave, you can't invent money. You can't. Yes, you can. Once you understand that money is not really a thing, it's just, the only reason money has value is because you and I agree that it has value, right? We agree that a $100 bill is worth $100. That's the only validity that money has, is you and I both agree in it. And with inflation, that's a whole other story. We actually have a YouTube video coming out on inflation next week, Kevin? Oh, tomorrow. There you go. It's coming out tomorrow. That's why it's important to subscribe to the channel. Like it, hit the bell to get notified. So tomorrow when that inflation video comes up, you'll be able to watch it. But yes, inventing money. And this is why I love using other people's money in creative financing on top of inventing money. So let's say you purchase an asset for $1 million. I don't know, $500,000, $1 million, whatever number. I'm just making up an example here. You purchase it for $1 million and you use other people's money. So none of your own money. You buy the asset completely with other people's funds, other people's money, creative financing, and then you lift the evaluation by either, if you're in a hot market, through market appreciation, or if you're in a secondary market, through forced appreciation. So you've taken an asset here and you've lifted it to here. The difference is you just created money. So that difference in what you purchased it at and what it's now evaluated at through appraisals and all that, you have literally just created money. So in this example, let's say you bought an asset for $1 million and you sell it for 1.5 million. Because you've done certain things, you've decreased the expenses, you've increased the income, you've made you've done some renovations, some rehabilitation, you've stabilized the asset. Well, by doing so, that asset was only worth $1 million, and that's still a lot of money, but $1 million when you bought it. But by doing the work and doing what real estate investors do all the time, you raise it and then you create money. That's how it's done, and this is something. And I remember one of my mentors telling me a while back is, and I think he says it in the book as well, is take money off the pedestal, right? Stop thinking money is this all-encompassing best thing in the world. Like, money is just money. Again, it's just something that you and I both agree is real. It doesn't even exist, all right? So once you understand that it doesn't even exist, and I think he touches on this in the book, but once you understand that, that's when you start to get creative. This is something that doesn't exist, so now you know that you can sway the lines and take it off that pedestal and realize that it is actually easy to create money or invent money, as he says. So number 5, inventing money. We do it all the time. Real estate investors do it all the time. Think of even flippers. They buy it for a certain amount. They put work into it. They sell it for a higher amount. They invented money, right? So when you think it's hard to do, if you know what you're doing with real estate, it's done all day, every day in any type of market all across North America. So inventing money, 100% agree with him. Number 6, work to learn, not to work. This is something, we get so many questions on our social media, and this is one that as soon as I read that, I think of TikTok. Okay, I literally think of TikTok. And if you're not following us on other social media platforms, please do. It's always at Investor Mel Dave. So on Facebook, it's at Investor Mel Dave. On TikTok, on what else is there? TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, anything that, any social media platform, always at Investor Mel Dave. Okay. But work to learn, not to work. And this is a question I get a lot on TikTok is there's a lot of young kids that ask me, Dave, I'm 18, Dave, I'm 20, Dave, I'm 25, whatever it is. And it doesn't matter what age you are, but I find I get a lot of this on TikTok. What should I be doing? And this is something that he mentions in the book as well, and I 100% agree. Work to learn. Yes, I almost got that backwards. Work to learn, not to work. And what I tell people that ask me this is, if you're young, how do I say this? If you're younger and you have time and you want to, before you have a bunch of liabilities and obligations, you should really be giving your time in order to learn as opposed to just looking for money, all right? And people say to me all the time, well, Dave, if I'm in school, so if let's say there's someone's in college and they want to work a job at night to make money, right? So they work an extra job to make money and they're okay with that. And then, how do I say this? Getting sidetracked. I can't think of how. People are okay going to school and then working a second job, all right? People are not okay volunteering their time to learn and then working a second job. And that's what I tell people. So you're okay to go pay somewhere to learn and then work a job at night or vice versa to pay the bills. However, they're not necessarily okay to go volunteer at a company or give their time and learn without having to pay them, right? Like school would, but they're not okay doing that and then having to work a second job. So that's to each his own. However, what I'm getting at here is if you're young and you're looking at, let's say you want to be a real estate investor, the best thing you could do is, well, think about this. What do real estate investors utilize all the time? They use property management. They use realtors. They use mortgage brokers. They use appraisers. They use financial institutions. So where do you think you could learn how to best sharpen your skills as a future real estate investor? Well, can you go and work at a property management company? Maybe you do a intern. Maybe you volunteer. Maybe you do get paid to work there, but maybe it's not your ideal job. However, you're working to learn. You're not necessarily, don't go into these positions thinking, I want top dollar. It's more of, how can I help you so that I can learn the absolute most? Okay, so if I could go back, I would have volunteered. I would have just given my time. If I was 18 years old or 20 years old again, I would have given my time. Mortgage brokers, financial institutions, appraisals, property management companies, all of that, I would have just tried to soak it up. I would have gone to, with the stocks, just to kind of get that aspect as well. So, and Robert Kiyosaki does this as well. He talks about how he went into the Marines. That's what it was, the Marines. He went there to learn. And then once he became like a sergeant or something, he quit, right? And then he went to Xerox. And once he became the bestseller, he quit. So again, he did all these things in order to learn, right? Hopefully that makes sense. The one thing I don't agree, number 7, and we have 2 more. Number 7 is the one thing, as much as I love them, the predictions. And it's funny because I get them on my phone all the time because I follow them in different places. And there's always these predictions on the biggest crash is coming, right? So like I know we're November, 17th today. In October, we had one of his notifications was October was going to be the biggest crash ever. And I've been following long enough that I see that it's almost one of those, you throw enough balls that sometimes they stick. So October didn't come true. Now I saw that November, he's also saying is going to be a huge crash. And that's him. That's what he does. And to each his own. But it's almost one of those, then when the crash happens or when a crash happens, it's going to be like, hey, I told you so. So that's kind of my one, the thing that makes me laugh is every month it's going to be a big crash, big crash, big crash. And then when it finally happens, it looks like, hey, I predicted it. Well, anyone could kind of do that. So that's number 7. It's not really a jab. It's just something I've noticed that I find a little funny. But hey, if it works for him, it's all good. Now, number 8 will be coming up after the break. I want you to check it out. It's one of our commercials. It's cool. It's Mel and I'm putting maple syrup in a Tim Hortons coffee. So check it out. Let me know what you think, if it's cheesy or it's funny or you like it or dislike it. And when we come back, we'll go over number 8.
What are you doing, Dave?
Mel, the Canadian real estate market is on fire right now, and I need my fuel in order to show these guys how to do it without any joint venture partners or without sacrificing all of their savings.
Well, let's go show them.
All right.
Want to learn how to buy Canadian properties using none of your own funds?
And what if we told you you are able to solely own that, which means you have no partners?
It may sound too good to be true, but this is happening every single day with our students.
Take Heather. She bought 4 multifamily properties in less than 5 months.
And Adele, who purchased 51 units last year.
And Troy and Lisa, who added 33 units to their portfolio.
And Francois, he purchased 15 units and was able to quit his full-time job in less than a year.
How did they do it? Well, it's a simple 3-step process that leverages OPM, other people's money.
If you want to see how this works, then click the link below and we'll send you the training straight to your inbox.
Don't miss out. Now is the best time to create a real estate portfolio.
We'll see you in the training.
All right, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that commercial. And just before I jump into number 8, just a reminder that subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit the bell. We have an inflation video coming out tomorrow. Inflation is out of control, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. And then also Q&A. Q&A is coming up after number 8. So if you have questions, start putting them in the chat. Mel and I. I always say, because I'm always so used to saying Investor Mel and Dave, but I'll go over the questions in the chat after. So don't be shy. Put them in there. And even if you're watching this video after, don't be shy. Comment below, and we always personally answer every question. So number 8, debt and leverage. When I read this book, it changed my life. The debt and leverage part of it. Mel and I read this book in 2016. At that time, we did not do creative financing. We did not do other people's money, and we thought debt was bad. Okay. And this is something, when we read the book, we were on holiday in 2016. We read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm getting goosebumps under my jacket. You can't see it, but I can feel the hair on my arms. But when we read this book, it changed our lives because we looked at debt and leverage. And I'm not saying by reading that book is going to teach you how to be a real estate investor, but it is a huge mindset book that will hopefully change your life too. Now, the debt and leverage, and sorry, to backtrack there as well, is after we read that book in 2016, 2017 is when we bought 12 properties in 12 months, which came up to about 56 units. 12 properties in 12 months, all leveraged, all 100% financed, all creative financing. So that's what I mean. I'm not saying you have to go and buy 12 properties in a year after reading it, but that's the kind of knowledge and mindset that you gain from it. So debt and leverage. Now let's talk about a few different things. Credit card. And this is something that Dave Ramsey last week, that when I talked about it, he absolutely hates the credit cards. Okay. And he hates the credit cards. And I agree with him to a certain extent. If you're in trouble with them, if you can't pay them, if you're using them to pay your day-to-day, and then you're not paying it off at the end of the month, like our general manager says, if you're in a hole, stop digging. Okay? So that is something, the credit cards, if you're in that scenario, 100% don't do it. However, if you can utilize them to your benefit, what I mean by this is if you can use them and then in 30 days pay them off, it builds your credit. I said it before and I'll say it again. As soon as my kids are 18, they're getting a couple of credit cards so they can start building their credit. But if you can use them with financial literacy, number 2, financial literacy, then you can truly leverage it. And for example, in the book, and this is like, I don't know how many years ago now, but Robert Kiyosaki talks about how he utilized his credit card to buy, was it a condo? Doesn't matter, to buy an income property in Hawaii. So he utilized his credit card as the down payment to purchase an income producing asset. And I think he made 50 or $100. Again, this is an old story from him, but just showing that he could use debt to leverage more debt to purchase an income producing asset. Okay. And when you understand how, like, once you harness that, limitless, your growth possibilities are limitless, because there's always private money. There's always private lenders. There's always debt available if you know how to find it and how to use it. So that's his take on credit cards. I 100% agree with him. Banks. I love banks. And when I say financial institutions, okay, I love financial institutions because they will fund the lion's share of your income producing assets, the purchase of it. Like, you should absolutely love banks for that exact purpose, or financial institutions for that exact purpose. And think about any other asset. Think about any other income producing assets. Could you walk into the bank today and say, I would like you to give me value, which is 80% of the purchase price or the appraised value. I would like you to give me 80% loan to value to buy Bitcoin. As of today, as far as I know, they don't do that. I'm sure down the road, who knows? Would they do that on Bitcoin? Not that I know of, okay? So no-ish. unless I don't know something, comment below. If you walk into the bank and ask them to give you 80% of a stock you want to buy, even if it's their own stock, think about that. You walk into a bank and you tell them, let's say you want to buy $100,000 of their own stock. Well, and you say, I want you to give me $80,000 of that to buy it. They won't, as far as I know, unless I'm wrong, comment below. So even the bank will not fund to buy their own stock. Okay, doesn't that tell you something? However, with income properties, you can walk in and say, hey, and I do it with my cash flow analysis matrix. So I say, hey, here's a deal that I want. It makes sense. I've underwritten it. I make sure that it cash flows and then the ratios are all good. I would like you to give me, and for example, let's use 80%. I would like you to give me 80% loan to value on this. And they say, hey, we like this deal. Absolutely. How we're going to mortgage it, this amount of interest, this amortization. Well, if you're in the States, it's a 30-year term. If you're in Canada, it's sometimes a 2 or 5-year term with amortization of 25 years. And they will look at it and they will fund your deal. And that is something that is beautiful, right? You're using the bank's money. You're using leverage. So he is big on that. I am big on that. And the fact that the banks will lend on that, it's kind of like insurance, right? They underwrite very tight. They make sure that that they're going to get their money. So the fact that they're willing to invest in real estate with you is a huge sign. So I love leveraging. I love debt with the banks on income producing assets. Okay. The next thing he talks about is private money and private lenders. He talks about debt and leverage, but I'm talking about private money and private lenders. This is something, again, that makes you limitless. I'm just taking, for example, our own story. The big 5 banks, when we hit a certain number, they wouldn't lend to us. Okay, so that's when we went to private money, private lenders, and that has been a limitless sector because there's always going to be the next private lender, the next private investor that as long as the deal makes sense, as long as you can show them how you're going to pay them, how you're going to pay them back, your exit strategy, which is huge, what we talk about all the time, there will always be money to fund your deals in the private lender and investor side of things. Okay, so this is, again, it's just a section of debt and leverage, but debt and leverage, he's huge on it. We're huge on it. It has changed our lives. It allowed us to quit our jobs. And now think of this, because we use debt, because we use leverage, because we use other people's money and creative financing, we bought enough income producing assets for us to live off of. And also, as we amass more and as they grow over time, right? It's not timing the market, it's time in the market. So because we bought those assets with none of our own money, our kids, we could pass away tomorrow and they'll be financially set for the rest of their lives. So this is the difference this is one of the major differences with Robert Kiyosaki and Dave Ramsey, is because we didn't just use our own money and then only able to buy just a little, because we use other people's money and we're able to buy a lot, now that a lot is going to produce income for generations to come. And there's a whole structure on that. That's kind of the corporation thing of how to do that. But yeah, so that's kind of my 1 to 8 breakdown of Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Poor Dad book and different concepts. I strongly agree with Robert Kiyosaki in that aspect that good debt is good. Liabilities and assets, understand the difference. He's very controversial for saying your house is not an asset, that it's a liability. That one gets people up in arms. But and I love when he says, how does he say it? He says, look on your oh no, I can't think of the word. But basically, does your bank list your house as an asset or a liability, right? And they call it an asset, but then it's also a liability against your total debt service ratio, your global debt service ratio, and your total debt to income. So anyway, take that what you will from that. It's kind of an oxymoron to me, but yeah, I strongly agree with him. That's my take on him. And if you haven't watched last week's, please watch it, because it's night and day between Dave Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki. So yeah, let me see if there's any questions, Kevin. I see some hellos. Hello, Powell and Manas. They're in the Action family, which I will be going live with the Action family. What time is it? 12:32 in 28 minutes. So I'll be seeing you guys live in the Action family soon. Cash flow game, yes. If you're not registered yet, Mel and I go live tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. www.iloveopm.com. You have to put the W's ahead of there. Register for free. I think you might get our book. Again, I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, we'll be live. We'll go through some deals. We'll go through creative financing. You can ask us questions at the end as well. Hey, Pascal. Yeah, so that's awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. Again, please, if you liked what you heard today, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell to get notified for that inflation video tomorrow. I can't believe how the inflation is just out of control. Like Kevin and I were looking at the numbers yesterday as we were doing the video. It's just, anyway, you'll see tomorrow. So hit the bell to get notified. Comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you like what I said about Robert Kiyosaki? What's your favorite thing? Out of everything I mentioned today, the 1 to 8, what is your favorite thing? What do you agree with the most? Have you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? I haven't heard one person. You know what? I have never spoken to someone that read it and didn't like it. I've had someone that read it the first time, didn't like it, read it the second time, and they're like, okay, this opened my eyes. Now I like it. But I'm always curious. Did you like it or did you not like it? Comment below. Again, Mel and I are the ones to respond to every single comment. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your time. And we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Dave.
And we're the Investor Couple. To invest your money and you want to maximize on your profits.
This is where real estate truly wins.
2.5 years in the making.
Who called the plumber? and you now have an infinite return on investment.